A 5-year-old girl's conversation with 911 saves her father. Having a heart attack is already a nightmare in itself. However, Frank's case was no ordinary nightmare. Imagine suddenly having a heart attack and the only person that can save you is your daughter. That was precisely the case for Frank, a father who suddenly collapsed in his home with his only daughter, Savannah. It was a good thing that he managed to call 911. However, right when the operator took his call, he fainted. His daughter, Savannah, had an unbelievable response amidst it all. Here is the marvelous story of how she managed to save her father's life. Emergencies do not follow a particular schedule and can come to anyone, anytime, anywhere. Frank's heart attack was unexpected, to say the least. But as it turns out, he was having an allergic reaction and was probably in a shock because of something that he ate. Utterly helpless, he was unable to talk or even ask for help. He just vulnerably lay there, not knowing if he was waiting for help or was waiting for it to end. Luckily, he had his daughter by his side at the time, and Savannah didn't think twice and took things into her little hands to save her father's life. Savannah Hensley was just a small, innocent girl at the age of 5 when the most horrible moment of her life unfolded just in front of her eyes. It was just a typical day at home with her daddy, or so she thought. All of a sudden, Frank felt sharp pains in his chest and experienced difficulty in breathing. He must have been confused at first, but deep in his mind, he knew what was happening. Right then, little Savannah understood that Daddy needs her help, and that she was the only one who could save him. A heart attack is not something that anyone could ever wish for themselves. In most cases, the victim does not know what to do or what is happening at first. The pain that Frank was feeling was too intense, and he started having a hard time breathing. He began to lose consciousness and could not speak anymore. Just a moment before he fainted, thankfully, he was still able to dial 911. However, his condition was gradually worsening, that his phone fell out of his hand. Little Savannah immediately came to the rescue as she grabbed the phone and started talking to the dispatcher on the line. Savannah quickly ran to her semi-conscious father and reassured that he would be okay, before going full force into her heroic actions. The little heroine tried, in her 5-year-old best, to explain the situation to the 911 dispatcher, who happened to answer her father's desperate dial. By that time, the dispatcher was already confused about what was really happening on the other end of the line. Savannah's first words on the phone were, my dad can hardly breathe. Right then and there, the dispatcher realized the severity of the situation. Following the protocol, the dispatcher asked Savannah for her age and name. He was suspicious of the call at first because he quickly recognized the caller's voice to be that of a child's. But then, with Savannah's opening lines, he knew that there was a real situation. Realizing that the situation at hand was critical, the dispatcher immediately dismissed a couple of officers and an ambulance to the Hensley home. Meanwhile, he tried to keep the 5-year-old girl calm, but surprisingly, Savannah did not seem to panic at all. The dispatcher continued to carry out their standard procedure as he kept Savannah on the line. He asked her if the front door is locked, but she didn't know, so she unknowingly asked her dad. Of course, her father could not answer back due to the concurrent heart attack. Little Savannah might be young, but she can follow instructions just as well. She then went on to check the door, and had also managed to unlock it for the officers that are coming, just as the dispatcher instructed her. But then the little girl realized something was wrong. The 5-year-old girl diligently followed the instructions as the dispatcher gave her. In a matter of minutes, her unexpected guests are going to arrive, and could now enter their home easily, after having opened the door for them. But then a horrible idea hit her mind. Savannah came to her senses and realized that the expected guests are to arrive soon. She immediately told the dispatcher that they were in their jammies and that she was wearing a tank top and had to get dressed. Anyway, the officer on the line told her to stay with her dad and that it wouldn't matter to the coming officers whether she was wearing her pajamas. Even in her state of worrying about her attire, Savannah still hadn't forgot about her father, whose condition is not changing for the better. She remembered to motivate her dad to stay strong and to calm him down, exuding total control of the situation at hand. "Don't worry, Dad," Savannah called out to Frank, as she was trying to keep her dad from worrying and also assuring him that everything would be okay in the end. However, her sweet words are still not enough to completely heal her father. The officer on the line asked little Savannah if her daddy's still awake. Little Savannah was not acting like a 5-year-old girl. In fact, she has taken everything under her control. She confirmed that her daddy is awake and breathing, and then reassured the dispatcher that her father is still okay. Though Savannah managed to answer the dispatcher's questions, she was completely unaware that the officer on the line was just buying time. He knew that even though Savannah is completely calm at the moment, she's still a little girl, and that she could get easily scared any moment. The situation was under control. The little girl was calm, her father was still breathing, and help is already on the way. But then Savannah can't entirely stay put when she remembered that she still has another problem. Once again, she heartily brought up the issue of her pajamas to the dispatcher. Savannah told him that she would just be in her room to put something else on, as she firmly didn't want anyone to see her in her pajamas. However, the dispatcher on the line persuaded her to continue staying by her dad. While the officers dismissed to the Hensley house are still not arriving, the dispatcher kept the conversation on with Savannah so as to keep in touch with her and the situation. He told her that she has to open the door for the officers, but the little girl has something else in mind. Adorably innocent Savannah thought that it would be the best time to introduce her pet dog Lulu to the dispatcher that she has been talking to for a while now. Meanwhile, the dispatcher rode along with her in an attempt to maintain his hold of the situation. Finally, the dispatcher relaxed for a bit when he was convinced that the little girl turned out to be calm and wasn't going to panic anytime soon. In fact, Savannah seemed to be trying to calm Lulu down, saying, "The ambulance is on the way. Come on, Lulu." The mood and the atmosphere suddenly lightened up for them. It is the least the pair could do while waiting for the officers to come. He asked Savannah if her puppy is friendly, and little Savannah laughed. She was more than happy in her answer. Little Savannah kept talking about her dog excitedly. When asked if her dog is friendly, Savannah was so delighted to answer. She explained to the dispatcher on the line that Lulu is friendly, but he kind of barks. Their conversation was taken to a sudden turn. Amused, the dispatcher explained to the little girl that it was perfectly normal for a puppy to bark, as it is their nature as a dog. Despite the critical situation at hand, their phone conversation was getting hilarious. But then, it is all that they could do to lift the agony of waiting. Their conversation dragged on. What was supposed to be an ordinary night turned out to be a rough one. The father and daughter were getting ready for bed, as they were already in their pajamas, but something unexpected happened. Now that they ended up in this arrangement, the dispatcher committed to his work head-on. For the dispatcher on the line, it felt like ages, but in reality, the waiting game was only a little over 10 minutes. At last, the officers arrived with an ambulance at the Hensley house. They rushed to find Frank. After moments of successfully remaining calm and in control, this moment has got Savannah scared. What am I gonna wear? But he really needs oxygen real fast. Yes, the door is unlocked, she stuttered on the phone to the dispatcher on the line. All the trained officers involved worked hand in hand, not only to save Frank, but also to reassure her that she was safe and that everything will be okay in the end. The waiting game is finally over, and now the hard part is to be dealt with. The misery is now over, not just for Frank, but for Savannah and the dispatcher on the line as well. They found out that Frank was not really having a heart attack and was actually fine, and so there was no need for him to be brought to the hospital. But then, it was thanks to Savannah's bravery, for without her, he may have really got one because of panic. Worse, he might end up unattended and even dead if his daughter was not by his side. But if he's not having a heart attack, then the situation was caused by something else, definitely. Fortunately, heart attack was not the cause of Frank's sudden chest pains and breathing difficulties. It turned out that he was allergic to a variety of things. But despite that fact, he has never experienced such a dangerous shock. This is why he did not have any idea what was happening and what to do. Likewise, it was also Savannah's first time seeing her father suffering like that. She knew, though, about his numerous allergies. Thus, she knew what to tell the dispatcher. Until the end of the situation, she was of great help. Towards the end, it was certain that little Savannah saved her daddy's life. If it wasn't for her brave reaction and courageous acts, it might have been the end for Frank. She was the bridge to help that her father badly needed to survive amidst the crisis. It was unusual for a 5-year-old to react to such situation the way Savannah did. Her father owes her his second life, for if not for her rapid reaction, the call with 911 would have stayed unattended. And if not for her cooperation, the dispatcher would not be able to send officers to their house. Their crisis is now finally solved, but its effects on them are far from over. It was not until later, when the whole call was released and published on the internet, that the little girl became an instant sensational celebrity. Soon enough, the once miserable situation for the Hensleys are now an amusement for the public. The conversation between Savannah and the fateful dispatcher became viral because it can't be denied that despite such a situation they were in, it all turned out to be hilarious. At last, Frank was finally better with the help of the officers who went to their aid. When he was already well, he immediately ran to his loving daughter and thanked her for what she had done. His daughter's acts are indeed commendable. It was a lovely father-daughter moment. Despite what happened, Frank was glad of how his little girl handled the situation. He then proceeded to tell her how proud he was of her, and assured her that she will be rewarded for it real soon. A very good lesson could be learned from Savannah and Frank's story. She was just a small, innocent 5-year-old girl, and while what happened to her father could have easily scared her, it was not what happened. Instead, her reaction to the whole situation tells that panic can never really solve anything. Luckily, Savannah didn't panic and answer her daddy's phone, because if not, Frank would be in serious trouble. Also, their hilarious conversation would never have happened and open for the people's entertainment. Little Savannah not only saved the day, but also proved that in any situation, it's best to stay calm and not panic.